All right. I've got some great news for you guys, all right? Today's video, we're going to be talking about how people in Canada are losing their homes to the bank. And I know you guys love this, so we're going to get right into this. And then after this video, probably tomorrow, the day after, I have the stats that are coming out. Probably also going to be horrible. You guys are going to love that. So let's get into this. Data shows mortgage arrears have reached a 5-year high in September. Arrears have been climbing aggressively and are amplified by falling total mortgages, with banks holding 150,000 fewer mortgages since the peak. We'll talk about that. Here is the mortgage rate. The mortgage arrears rate at 0.24%. And it's actually been flat throughout August and September, and I'll explain why that is. The mortgage arrears rate was 0.24% in September, up 4 basis points from last year and 10 basis points from the record low in June 2022. The level isn't concerningly high, but resembles normalization to pre-pandemic reality. However, there are some concerning data points that indicate normalization may be a stop on the way to something much more concerning. Canadian mortgages in arrears have exploded 63% since 2022. And this is the overall amount of mortgages in arrears as opposed to the percentage in arrears, okay? The actual volume of distressed mortgages has been exploding higher in recent months. There were 12,040 mortgages in arrears in September, up 17.8% from last year and 63.2% higher than the June 2022 record low. Distress is rising more aggressively than the arrears rate suggests, highlighting the emerging issue that can amplify the problem very abruptly: total mortgages. So what they're saying here is distress is rising more aggressively than the arrears rate suggests. I'm going to explain that with the other chart coming up soon. This one. Total mortgage volume at Canadian CBA member banks. So you can see from August to September, the total mortgages increased ever so slightly. This is the amount of mortgages in existence at the banks, okay? CBA member banks reported 4.97 million total mortgages in September, up 0.65% from a month before. Since credit is seasonal, month over month isn't typically worth analyzing, but this data point may be notable this time next year. It was the first monthly growth observed after 14 months of declines, and it was sharp growth. As you can see, the amount of mortgages has actually been declining since June of 2022, which is bad. That means less new mortgages in existence, which means less people buying real estate, I'm going to assume, in relation to the amount of people selling their real estate and getting rid of those mortgages, aside from August to September, where it actually had a sharp increase. However, the trend is still generally showing a drop. Total mortgages were down 1% from last year and 2.83% from the peak. As the denominator gets smaller, this helps to boost the arrears rate while suggesting reduced liquidity potential. So, although the amount of mortgages in distress, in arrears, increased, so did the overall amount of mortgages. And that's what helped the arrears rate stay flat. Does that make sense? I hope it does. The arrears rate was treated to some artificial softening due to a sudden rise in monthly total mortgage issuance. The trend still shows higher mortgage arrears and a climbing rate. There's still more people in arrears. We just had a month where more mortgages were taken out, which kind of hid the rising arrears. So the trend still shows higher mortgage arrears and a climbing rate and generally declining total mortgages. When the denominator shrinks, each delinquency matters more. So when there is less mortgages being issued, but the overall percentage of those mortgages are arrears that are going up, if there's more distressed mortgages but less overall mortgages being issued, it's greater stress on the banking system, right? I'm not a genius. I'm just giving you my understanding of what this gentleman here is talking about. Now, why are there so many mortgage arrears? Well, a lot of people think it's because interest rates went up and people can't afford the payments. But in my opinion, I think like what is your mortgage going to go up? $700, $800, even $1,000? I would argue that most people can very easily get rid of $700 a month worth of bullshit in their life if their payment went up $700 a month. You know, People are drinking beer and wine. They're buying $12 IPAs at the pub. They're ordering skip the dishes, buying new clothes. They probably drive a car that's maybe a current model, brand new car, and they could be driving a 2003 Corolla. There's probably a lot of ways that people could free up some capital and drop their expenses. So I don't think rising rates is the direct cause of this. I think it's an indirect cause because rising rates have hurt businesses, right? But what I think is the cause is incomes, is people losing either their income has gone down 30%, 50%, 70%, 80%, or they've entirely lost their job. And when your income goes down, well, now if you're paying an extra $700 a month, well, you couldn't even pay the initial payment to begin with because your income went down 50%, right? Like this guy on Twitter by Shazzy Goalie. He says, drowning in financing, lost a job 4 months ago. I'll spare it, but essentially he has monthly expenses of $6,700 a month. He tried everything to cut down all these expenses. His wife can't work, and he just lost his second job, which basically makes up half his income. He gets $3,200 from one, $3,500 from the other. He lost 50% of his income. He has $22,000 on savings and $15,000 in line of credit debt. And it's a really sad story. You guys can read it kind of as I'm talking about it here. I'll leave it on the screen. But yeah, I mean, this is just an example of somebody losing their income and now they might lose their home, right? I think he has a mortgage. I tried reducing everything. Oh, that's rent. Okay, so he's trying to pay his rent. But listen, I personally know people that are having this problem because their income has dropped in real life, boots on the ground. I know realtors that have been in the industry for 10, 11, 12 years that are going to make less money this year than they made their first year in real estate 12 years ago, when now they have a massive book of business and all of these skills and they're so much more experienced and better. Their sales skills are way better. They know their way around a contract perfectly, how to speak to people. They have, 300-400 clients who they've sold into properties who at some point would need to then sell that property and move up the property ladder or get out of the market or whatever. They're making less money this year than they did their first year in real estate, right? So that's a probably 70% drop in income. I know realtors that just like the lady in Toronto who made $300K per year and now she's making 50. That's a real thing. I'm seeing that. I'm talking to people who that happened to in real life here in BC, right? And if that happens, you can't pay your mortgage, you're going to go into arrears. It's an income thing. I just had a conversation with a buddy who is at a plumbing company. I'm not going to say the name, and I can't really use the real numbers either, but I can use the percentage. He said that basically the construction side would have been laid off. They got rid of 60% of their construction side. So a bunch of them were laid off. A bunch of people probably left on their own accord, but it's 60% smaller. And, for the first time in my adult life, I'm talking to buddies who lost their job and can't find another one. And they work in the trades, construction industry. Back when I was a plumber, and I think I've said this before on this channel, the company didn't interview you. You would interview the company because everybody was so short for guys. Everybody needed guys all the time. Like a Red Seal plumber was like, oh, that's how hard it was to get like a Red Seal plumber that would show up to work on time and work 8 hours, right? So whenever I went to an interview, I would be like interviewing the company, being like, yeah, what are you guys going to pay me? What do you offer? What's the culture like? Is there GPS in my van? I don't want people policing me when I drive to the gym after work in the van. But now that dynamic has completely flipped. And now if you lose your job, the company is going to be interviewing you. You don't interview the company because now the job is in demand. It's not the worker that's in demand. The job is in demand. So I personally know people that have lost their jobs, can't find another one. I know a lot of people in real estate whose income, pretty much everyone's income is down. Just like everybody, pretty much everybody. But I know people whose income is down like 70, 80%. And those are the scenarios where you go into arrears. So yeah, it sucks out there. But I don't know. I'm sure you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like, subscribe. If you want to chat with me about buying or selling real estate in the Fraser Valley, there's a link that books right into my calendar down below. Otherwise, I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.